Good morning, everyone. Okay, let's get on with it. So today, we'll continue with what we left of last time. So last time we talked about the three poisons, and we've looked at the greed, anger, and today we will look at the delusion, the next one of the three poisons. So there is a type of sentient beings whose delusions is extremely heavy, especially having an abundance of delusion. Delusion is confusion and ignorance, a lack of clear understanding regarding phenomena and principles. Those who lack a clear understanding of the phenomena and principles are not necessarily complete without knowledge. Many may even possess broad knowledge and profound learning. Yet, because they do not believe in the causality of wholesome and unwholesome deeds, the Buddha Dharma defines them as deluded. Conversely, there is a type of person who, although lacking in academic knowledge, has a sincere and deep faith in causality. So the Buddha Dharma says they possess wisdom. Whether one is deluded or not is not determined by the presence or absence of knowledge, but by whether or not one believes in the law of causes and conditions. Contemplating Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva can lead one to be free from delusion and attain wisdom. This is a deeply held belief throughout the Chinese Buddhist community. So in the past, when the Chinese temple accepted young novices, the master would first instruct the novice to worship Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, and for the duration of one stick of incense before going to sleep. And while reciting the following: disciple, name, seeking intelligence, praying for wisdom, to the one of vast spiritual response, of great kindness and great compassion, who saves from suffering and rescue from hardship, Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. One would recite once and prostrate once. So through long-term worship, many have received the spiritual response of the Bodhisattva. And those who were originally very dull have later become intelligent. Foolishness obscures wisdom, and studying the Buddha Dharma is a pursuit of wisdom. Therefore, every person who studies the Buddha Dharma should break through the darkness of foolishness and live within the light of wisdom. Okay, the sutra. Atsayamati, Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara possesses such great transcendent power and bestows many benefits. Therefore, sentient beings should always keep him in their thoughts. It is necessary to recite constantly. When reciting, one must recite with the mouth, listen with the ears, and contemplate with the mind in order to obtain the response of the Bodhisattva's majestic and supernormal power. Okay. If a woman wishes to have a son and prostrates and make offerings to the Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, she will give birth to a son endowed with merits and wisdom. If she wishes to have a daughter, she will give birth to a beautiful and well-formed daughter who has planted the roots of virtues in previous lifetimes and will be loved and respected by all. Sentient beings in the world all hope to bear sons and raise daughters because of the need to continue the family line. For our worldly perspective, if a family line is cut off and there are no descendants, it is considered very sad and tragic. However, from the perspective of the Buddha Dharma, children are a burden, especially for those practicing the path, because the deep attachment to children makes it very difficult to progress on the path. Furthermore, the arrival of children is nothing more than two types. One is those who come to repay debts, such as children who are filial to their parents and love their family. The other is those who come to collect debts, such as children who are rebellious, unfilial, and squander the family wealth. Therefore, for those who are truly practicing, children are not necessarily required, but in order to adapt to the request of sentient beings in the world, the compassionate Buddha and Bodhisattvas are also able to fulfill the wishes and seekings of sentient beings. This is why, among the manifestations of Avalokiteshvara, there is the children bestowing Guan Yin and the others. If there is a woman in this world who truly wishes to have a son, and what can she do? The sutras tell us that if she prostrates and makes offerings to the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, she will give birth to a son endowed with merits and wisdom. Prostration means to bow with the utmost sincerity, throwing the 5 parts of the body to the ground, just as one does when worshipping the Buddha today. Making offerings means to present various items, such as incense and flowers. However, the offerings spoken of in the Buddha Dharma are not necessarily material goods. If one can show reference with body through prostration, recites the name with the mouth, and contemplate the holy image in the mind, such an offering of the 3 activities is the greatest offering of all. If one can do this, Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara will grant you a son endowed with both merits and wisdom. To be born as a human, merits and wisdoms are equally important. To have merits but no wisdom is like an idiot born into a wealthy family. Although they have every comfort, they have a lot of comfort, they understand nothing. To have wisdom but no merits is like a scholar born into a poor family. Although they are filled with literally talents and knowledge, their life is full of distress. Neither of these is ideal. Therefore, when seeking a son, one must seek a son who possesses both merits and wisdom. If a woman wishes to have a daughter, she will give birth to a beautiful and well-formed daughter. This means that in this world, if a woman prays to the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, hoping to give birth to a girl, the Bodhisattva can also fulfill her wish. Beautiful and well-formed are exceptionally important here, because for a woman born into this world, the beauty and dignity of her physical appearance are valued even more than a man. So there is absolutely be no defects. The common saying, 5 sense organs are well proportioned, and the Buddhist term endowed with 6 faculties both refer to being physically beautiful and dignified. So if you think about someone having a mouth as big as half of the face, they look very scary, right? So everything has to be well proportioned, and so other will like to look at you, and you feel happy, and you not feel shy. So okay. So this so-called beautiful and well-formed implies that for a woman, she must be upright in character, and especially dignified in her conduct. There is another interpretation. The male represents wisdom and the female represents compassion. Looking at the general characteristics of man and woman, a woman's character is gentle and her capacity for sympathy is great, especially in the manifestation of maternal love, which even surpasses that of men. Therefore, the female is used to represent compassion. Thus, to seek a son is to seek wisdom. To seek a daughter is to learn compassion. Only by practicing this union of compassion and wisdom can one attain the fullness of both. Asayamati, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, possesses such power. If there are sentient beings who respectfully worship the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, their merits will not be in vain. Therefore, all sentient beings should uphold the name of the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. So when we reverently worship Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, do not think it is no benefit to oneself. In fact, reverence has the merit of reverence, and repentance also has the merit of repentance. So it will absolutely not be passed in vain or be a waste of time. Oops. Yeah. Asayamati. If someone were to uphold the names of the 62 millions of Ganges sent Bodhisattvas and furthermore, for their entire life, offer them food, clothing, bedding, and medicine, what do you think? Asayamati replied, very great, world-honored one. The Buddha said, if, however, someone were to uphold the name of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattvas and even for a single moment pay homage and make offerings, the merits of these two people would be exactly equal without difference and would not be exhausted for hundreds of thousands of millions of kalpas. The Ganges is a great river in India, and the sand in the Ganges is very fine. And in Buddhist sutras, the sand of the Ganges are often used as a metaphor for a vast multitude. If one were to take a handful of sand, the grains would already too numerous to count. The total amount of sand in the entire river is even more difficult to describe in its vastness. So if a sentient beings uphold the names of 62 millions of Ganges and of Bodhisattvas, it goes without saying that the act of upholding these names is vast, and the field of merits is likewise vast. Furthermore, it is not merely upholding and reciting their names. One also devoted one's entire life to making offerings of food and drinks, clothing, bedding, and medicine. These are what are known as the 4 provisions of offerings. When the Buddha was in the world, the offerings made by believers consisted of these 4 requisites. If one was ill, they offer medicine. In ordinary times, they offer food and drink, clothing and bedding. Because these are the essentials for human survival, even Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Arahats are no exception. However, such offerings are not made for just 1 or 2, or a year or 2, but are offered in this way for the duration of one's entire life. For instance, if one begins to arouse the attention to make offerings at the age of 20 and lives until the age of 80, they would make offerings for 60 years. In short, for the remaining of one's life, for the remainder of one's life, one makes these 4 offerings in this manner. So as the scripture says, Giving to 10 million evil person is not good as giving to one good person. Making offerings to 1,000 unenlightened monks is not good as making offerings to one arahat. Making offerings to 1,000 arahats is not as good as making offerings to one bodhisattva. Why is this so? Evil people are not equal to good people, and enlightened monks have not yet transcended birth and death, and arahats seek only their own salvation without saving other sentient beings. Therefore, there is a difference in the magnitude of merits. However, we often see and hear of many Buddhists who at one moment think of reciting this sutra, and at next they want to recite that sutra, and one moment they enjoy performing repentance rituals, and at the next they become interested in chanting mantras. They are truly busy beyond measure. In doing so, it cannot be said that there is no merit, but sometimes it results in a distracted and unsettled mind, which instead becomes an obstruction to practice. Therefore, it is not as good as being perfectly sincere, earnestly, and single-minded, either by chanting the Universal Gate chapter or by upholding the holy name of Avalokiteshvara, which is far more beneficial. Aksayamati Bodhisattva addresses to the Buddha, saying, "World-honored one, how does Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva wander through this Saha world? How does he expound the Dharma for sentient beings? What is the nature of his power of skillful means?" So, Aksayamati Bodhisattva addresses the Buddha saying, "World-honored one," and Avalokiteshvara asking, so how does he wander through this Saha world? The second, how does he expound the wonderful Dharma for the sake of living beings? And the third question is, what is the nature of the power of his skillful means? Saha is an Indian term referring to the world we currently inhabit. It means forbearance. From the perspective of sentient beings, we exist within this world, and it can be said that we are never of a moment free from the abyss of suffering, surrounded and assaulted by layer upon layer of pain. Yet, no matter how we are afflicted by such suffering, we are able to endure it. Thus, forbearance means the capacity to endure the various pains imposed upon our bodies and minds by this reality. Not only can we endure the sufferings, but we even mistake suffering for happiness, and therefore we do not wish to leave this world. From the perspective of a bodhisattva would originally dwell in the Pure Land, enjoying all kinds of joy and peace. However, in order to save the sentient beings of this world, they come here to provide guidance. In the process of teachings, although they encounter much resentment, jealousy, and the afflictions of various sufferings, and although they are subjected to all kinds of disappointments, and although saving sentient being is a difficult task, the Bodhisattva is capable of enduring exhaustion and all manners of distress. Therefore, they are called forbearing. Coming from the realm of ultimate bliss to the Saha world is a manifestation of the body will of the Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. The Avalokiteshvara of the realm of ultimate bliss, in his wandering and teaching within the Saha world, appears from a conventional perspective to be a bodhisattva who has arrived in this world. However, from the perspective of the Buddha Dharma, the Bodhisattva remains a being in the realm of ultimate bliss, never have moved in the slightest. This is what is called arriving without having coming. Coming to this Saha world to expound the Dharma for the sake of sentient beings is a manifestation of the will of speech of the Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. Since the Bodhisattva has come to this world to wander and teach, he must naturally expound various Dharma gates for the sake of the sentient beings. One must realize that the truth of all Dharmas is beyond the marks of verbal expression and cannot be expressed through language. However, for the sake of guiding sentient beings, it is not a single word. If no single word spoken, how could they realize the truth? So to adapt to the needs of sentient beings, the Bodhisattva speaks of various different Dharma gates, enabling sentient beings to enter into the truth of the real character through these verbal expressions. The exposition of the Dharma employs various skillful means, which manifest the will of the mind of the Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. Teaching the Dharma to save sentient beings is no simple task. It must be accomplished by skillful means. Without appropriate and skillful methods, the work of salvation is difficult to carry out. Skillful means, in modern terms, means adaptation. Saving sentient beings cannot be rigid or formulaic with a fixed formula. It has to be a variety of methods. One must be able to adapt to the era, the environments, the innate faculties of sentient beings. Only then, by carrying out guidance, one can achieve twice the results with half the effort. Because eras and environments differ, the faculties of sentient beings vary. If one does not employ skillful means to adapt to circumstances, manifest according to the conditions, and teaching according to individual potential, then sentient beings will not be easily transformed. When you go to save sentient beings, you must observe the actual situation at that time. Whatever method you deem convenient and appropriate, use that method to teach and guide them. This is inconceivable transformation of the Bodhisattva's will of mind. Deep within the mountains of Guizhou, a village in China, there's a disaster going to happen, which happened in a town that collect the mercury. And because the villagers are blinded by wealth, they didn't notice the mountain's foundation had rotten away and is going to collapse at any time. But the Bodhisattva knows about this. So to save them, the compassionate Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara manifested as a stunningly beautiful woman, bathing naked in a nearby stream. What happened is they all want to go to work to get the mercury, but and nobody listened to the Bodhisattva that there will be a danger. So the Bodhisattva manifests herself into a beautiful woman and taking a bath nearby. So entranced by this sight, the entire village rushed out to watch, and suddenly the earth split with a deafening roar. They turned to see the entire village buried under a mountain of rock, and they had escaped with their lives. But when they looked back to the stream where to the stream where the beautiful woman taking the bath, the woman already vanished. So one villager, however, had been asleep and was trapped deep within a dark rock in a little cave there, squashed there, unable to move. He began to devotedly recite Avalokiteshvara's holy name. So in the darkness, a white mouse appeared, its eyes flashing like lightning onto a stone wall, and under it glows, and the sacred text characters of the Universal Gates chapter miraculously manifested. So the mouse began licking the text on that wall, and the starving man followed this action. And to his amazement, tasting the holy words fills his stomach and kept him alive. So a few years later, a herb gatherer heard faint groans from the mountain ruins. And digging through the rocks, he rescued the trapped man, who was weak but alive. Beside him, the person that discovered the remaining lines of the Buddhist scripture carved into that stone. So through desire, danger, and isolation, the Bodhisattva had manifested in every realm to guide them from destruction to salvation. In the sutra, the Buddha said to Aksayamati Bodhisattva, "Good son, if there are beings in any land who should be liberated by the body of a Buddha, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva immediately manifests in the body of the Buddha and teaches the Dharma for them. If there are those who should be liberated by the body of a Pratika Buddha, he immediately manifests in the body of the Pratika Buddha and teaches the Dharma for them. If there are those who should be liberated by the body of a Shravaka, he immediately manifests in the body of a Shravaka and teaches Dharma for them." So in this regard, someone might raise the questions. Since a Avalokiteshvara is called a Bodhisattva, how can a Bodhisattva manifest a Buddha's body? This can be explained in two ways. As has been repeatedly stated above, the current Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva is a manifestation. In his past lives, he had long ago already attained Buddhahood, bearing the name Tathagata of the radiance of true Dharma. Since this is the case, his current manifestation of the Buddha body is merely showing his original face. How could he be unable to manifest the Buddha body? Another explanation is that Bodhisattva from the first Bhumi and above are capable of manifesting bodies to act as Buddhas. For instance, a first Bhumi Bodhisattva can manifest bodies in 100 realms to act as a Buddha, and a second Bhumi Bodhisattva can manifest bodies in 1,000 realms as the act of a Buddha. Avalokiteshvara is the upcoming Buddha of the realm of ultimate bliss, so his ability to manifest various different Buddha's bodies to expound the Dharma for sentient beings is, of course, absolutely without any problem. The 4 holy realms of the 10 realms are the Shravaka, Pratika Buddha, Bodhisattva, and Buddha. It was previously explained that the Bodhisattva manifests a Buddha's body to expound the Dharma for sentient beings. If one were to follow the order of the 4 holy ones, one should proceed to explain the manifestation of a Bodhisattva's body to expound the Dharma for sentient beings. However, After the scriptural text speaking of manifesting a Buddha's body, it immediately goes on to speak of manifesting a Pritika Buddha body and a Shravaka body without mentioning the manifestation of a Bodhisattva's body. What is the principle behind this? It should be understood that what Avalokitesvara is currently manifesting is precisely the Bodhisattva body. So the identity of the Bodhisattva has already been clearly indicated. Therefore, it is unnecessary to repeat here in this passage. If one should be saved by a Bodhisattva's body, the Bodhisattva immediately manifests a Bodhisattva's body to expound the Dharma for them. So no need to say that. So if there is a class of sentient beings in the land who should be liberated through the body of a Pritika Buddha, Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, in his great kindness and great compassions, immediately manifests in the body of a Pritika Buddha and teaches the Dharma. Pritika Buddha is an Indian term. Translated into Chinese, means one enlightened by dependent arising and a solitary realizer. Though there are a distinction between the two, the one enlightened by dependent arising, according to what has been explained, appears during an era when a Buddha is present, receiving the Buddha's teaching on causes and conditions to attain enlightenment and liberation. For instance, when the Buddha explains the doctrine of the 12-fold dependent co-arising, these sentient beings listened and observed the causes and conditions in both sequential and reverse order. And from the causes and conditions of arising and easing, they realize the true emptiness of that which neither arises or eases. So, okay. So these are the 12 links of the dependent arising. Yeah, ignorance, violation, information, formation, I'll just get on with it. So the 12 links of the dependent arising are commonly stated as: ignorance is the condition for violation formation. Violation formation are the condition for consciousness. Consciousness is the condition for mind and body. And mind and body are the condition for the 6 sense faculties. The 6 sense faculties are the conditions for contact. Contact is the conditions for feeling, and feeling is the condition for craving. Craving is the condition for clinging, and clinging is the condition for existence. Existence is the condition for birth, and birth is the condition for aging and death, sorrow, distress, suffering, and afflictions. So following this 12-link chain, that is, because this exists, that exists. Because this arises, that arises. One continue to drift in the sea of suffering through birth and death. By going against the 12-link chain, that is, because this does not exist, that does not exist. Because this is, that is. One cuts off birth and death and returns to the extinction of nirvana. Although dependent arising consists of 12 links, in reality there are only 3: afflictions, actions, and sufferings. Because one resolves the cycle of birth and death, these 3 are like a ring without an end, causing us to ceaselessly arise in afflictions, perform actions, and undergo suffering, resulting in a cycle that has no time of cessation. Only the Pritika Buddha can break through the hook chains of dependent arising and attain liberation. A Prittika Buddha, solitary realizer, appears in an era without Buddha. That is, when a Buddha Sikamuni has already entered Nirvana and the Buddha Maitreya has not yet descended to the human realm, or even when the true Dharma of the Buddha Shakyamuni has completely eased. Being with the innate character of Prittika Buddha emerge in the human world and observing the 100 flowers blooming in competition during spring and yellow leaves scattering and dancing with the wind in autumn, they attain awakening. To the ordinary worldling, seeing spring flower blooms and autumn leaves fall does not evoke any particular feeling. Even if they are moved, it is merely an awareness of the changing of seasons. However, the Prittika Buddha saints, through the blooming of spring flowers and the falling of autumn leaves, awakens to the truth that all things in the world are in a state of impermanence, evolution. And that is not a single Dharma that can remain permanently unchanged. As the common saying, a beautiful flower does not bloom forever, and even if it does bloom, it cannot remain without withering. By carefully observing this and realizing the truth of impermanence, they attain the fruits of Prittika Buddha. So in this actual world, since there are such types of sentient beings, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva naturally conceals his Bodhisattva identity, manifests the body of a Prittika Buddha for them, and explain the teachings of the 12 links of dependent origination, causing them to practice according to the law of dependent arising and attain the fruit of Prittika Buddha. If there is such a type of sentient beings in the land, for those who should be liberated through the body of a Shravaka, Bodhisattva will manifest the body of a Shravaka and explain Dharma to them. Shravakas are mostly those of the age of the Buddha, who attained liberation by hearing the Buddha's oral teachings and songs regarding the Four Noble Truths. They are called Shravakas. For sentient beings with this type of innate character, one must manifest the body of a Shravaka to explain the Dharma to them before they can accept your guidance. So Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, possessing great kindness and great compassion, follows the requests of the sentient beings, adapts to their innate characters, and manifests the body of a Shravaka to explain the Four Noble Truths for them. The Four Noble Truths are the fundamental theme of Buddha Dharma and also its main framework. When the Buddha first turned the wheel of Dharma at the Rispatana Deer Park in India, he was teaching the truth of the Four Noble Truths. The first, the Noble Truth of suffering, refers to the fruits of suffering, namely the various pains experienced in actual human life. That life is suffering is a worldly fact that no one can deny. Yet no one has realized more precisely than the Buddha. The Buddha renounced the secular life because he contemplated suffering, and he also elucidated the truth of suffering for the sake of all sentient beings. The second, the noble truth of the origin of suffering, refers to the cause of suffering, the driving force that attracts the fruits of suffering. Broadly speaking, this is composed of afflictions and karma. Specifically, craving is the root of suffering. It is because we are in a state of infinite thirst that we create various karmic causes, which in turn lead us to experience the painful fruits of life. Therefore, the two truths of suffering and its origin constitute one layer of mundane cause and effect. The origin is the mundane the mundane cause, and the suffering is the mundane fruit. The third, the noble truth of the cessation of sufferings, refers to the fruit of happiness, which is the fruit of nirvana attained by departing from birth and death. The fourth, the noble truth of the path of cessation of suffering, refers to the cause of happiness, the factors that enable one to attain the fruits of nirvana. Although there are many paths to be practiced, the primary one is the Noble Eightfold Path. By practicing according to the Noble Eightfold Path, one can certainly attain the fruit of nirvana. Therefore, the two truths of cessation and the path constitute one layer of supramundane cause and effect. The path is the supramundane cause, and the cessation is the supramundane fruit. So in summary, the Four Noble Truths are in fact two layers of cause and effect, the mundane and the supramundane. The mundane cause and effects must be eliminated, while the supramundane cause and effects must be realized. So Bodhisattvas teach the law of the Four Noble Truths to sentient beings of the Shravaka deposition with the aim to enabling them to know suffering, eliminate its origins, aspire to cessation, and practice the path so as to attain the holy fruits of the Shravaka. Therein, the knowledge of suffering is of the utmost importance. For it is only by knowing suffering that one seeks to eliminate its causes, and only by knowing sufferings that one aspires to the cessation of suffering and cultivation of the path. Therefore, suffering is the first gateway to enter the path. So, do you think suffering is very important for us to learn Buddha Dharma? Yes. Yes, especially for us as a monastic. I remember before I became a monastic, because my family is quite good, we are not poor and I don't have any problems before I become a nun. So my friends say, you have not experienced enough of the suffering. You wouldn't understand how to cope and help others that go through their sufferings. And I was thinking, well, it's not my choice. I don't have much suffering in my life before. Well, but the thing is, really, if we really understand suffering, we can help sentient beings and stand at their viewpoint. Otherwise, when you face them and they ask for your help, you don't have enough compassion to help them, and you don't know the way to help them and liberate them. So knowing that the suffering, the pain is very important, it can move us to work harder, be diligent in our own studies, and explore and gain compassion for others. So always remember why we have to liberate. Also because we have a lot of sufferings, a lot of pains. And this also is the same for all sentient beings. So to help them, we have to work diligently with our own Dharma learning. And then hopefully one day we can lift them out from this painful world. Okay, so this year I think I will just finish here and maybe continue with this in the next year. Okay, so at time's up. I think, okay.